All right, it is time to talk a little bit of baseball here. This is the Lineup HQ Breakdown Show, and we're joined by one of the sharpest minds in the biz. It's Dave Potts, a.k.a. Cheese-Is-Good. Cheese, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good morning. It's a early day, weird day, different slates all over the place. And I guess we'll give you a little bit of look at both of them before we do the normal shows a little bit later on.
Right. It is. It's very spread out, but I want to start talking about FanDuel, of course. And, we only need one pitcher. And the main FanDuel slate is 4 games. It keeps the very earliest of the games in, but then cuts off kind of that big chunk of games in the mid-afternoon.
Yeah. So we'll, it really is. Each site is doing a different thing, but it's 4 pretty good games. Like normally a 4-gamer can be a little dicey, but we have actually 4 good pitching options, which leaves us with at least 4 good hitting options as well.
Okay, well, let's talk about the pitchers. We'll start there, and then we can kind of go through. You can highlight maybe some of your favorite stacks or a favorite player too, if you want.
Yeah, with our projections pulled up, Corbin Burnes is always going to pop because he's Corbin Burnes. But what I'm looking at is his consistency has bothered me a little bit. Like his upside is always there. The matchup is fine. But like
that
you Darvish,
though, I mean, 11-3 that ain't cheap.
It's pricey. Now you Darvish, if you look at the last couple of months, has actually been as good as Burnes, more consistent than Burnes, and he's got the Tigers, who are the worst team against righties. For me, I actually just want Darvish over Burnes straight up. That's how I feel about it. It's close. I'm always going to have some Burnes, but Darvish is my SP1.
And right now we've got the projected ownership here heavily in favor of Burnes. Do you think that maybe it'll be a little bit closer than what we're seeing there?
I think it'll be closer. I think it'll be more 30-20. Mm-hmm. But to me, like I do have Darvish ahead of Burnes. I love them both. I will always play some Burnes, but give me the guy who's been just simply great, consistent, facing the Tigers.
Sure. Okay. And then you got some other guys there. You got Chuck Nasty.
Yeah.
That's what I call Charlie Morton. I made that up.
He likes it when you do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut off the bottom 4 guys. Like to me, you're either playing Darvish or Burnes, or you're playing Morton or Skubal. The salary does not, you just don't need the salary to mess around with Brad Keller today. Morton versus Skubal, it's similar to the Burnes versus Darvish. Like they're both good. They're both very close. But like Skubal has been so up and down. As much as I love the guy, like Morton is just a little better, and he's a little cheaper. So to me, it's Morton if you can't afford Darvish or Burnes, and that's really the whole picture.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the stacks, and you just kind of go what do you like?
The very obvious chalk is Braves and Brewers, and that is what I like. The Brewers are way too cheap. The Braves lineup has come out. We finally have Michael Harris up top, Harris and Olsen in particular, with the Braves stack as a whole. And then after Braves and Brewers, both sides of that Angels-Royals game there's a lot of unknown, like this pitcher for the Angels, Jansen Junk. We have no idea. Like even his minor league sample size is small, but I think the Royals are the clear number 3 stack against his random junk.
Okay. Is his name really Jansen Junk?
Jansen Junk. What a great name.
It's amazing. I love it. Okay. Anything you want to add here on the FanDuel side of things?
I really think that's it, other than you should throw in a couple of high upside bats against the good pitchers. Basically throw in a little Machado, a little Schwarber, a little Buxton, like just, don't just play those obvious spots if you're multi-entering.
Gotcha. All right. Lineup HQ preview show, joined by the best, the Cheese, breaking it down. Cheese, we got to talk about the DK slate. This one, a little bit later here, but it's got more games. It looks like a great slate to me.
Yeah, it's a very good 7-game slate. We've got, just like on the earlier FanDuel slate, Corbin Burnes is up top. But, man, Christian Javier in Oakland, pretty great. I think the ideal build is Burnes with Javier. Mm-hmm. But if I'm only playing one, and you do need the salary, like you can use the salary with bats. So give me Javier as the SP1. There's always some question with him. Like he can be bad against anyone if he's off, but that upside is as big as Burns, and he's got the much better matchup and the much better price. So ideally, Javier Burns.
Yeah, and it looks like you could probably afford it. Neither are crazy expensive.
Yeah, I think you probably can. But there are a lot of spend up bats. And so I'm going to throw, both Zach Gallen and John Gray are very much in play, but it's just moderate savings from Burns. So I don't love it. I would try to get up to Burns, but I do like both Gallen and Gray. And then I think it's worth considering a little Brad Keller. He's got that matchup against the super high strikeout Angels. He's at least occasionally good. He can bust against anyone. There's nothing safe about this, but if you want to load up on bats, he is too cheap for the matchup. And that's really my whole pool. Okay, I want as much Javier Burns as possible, a little Gallen or Gray if I can't quite get that. And then I'll toss in a little Brad Keller only where needed.
Well, yeah, 6-1 sounds pretty nice there as far as the price goes. Okay, let's talk about some of your favorite stacks on DK, and then we'll quickly kind of run around the horn and discuss, some position by position stuff.
Yeah, the bats are pretty great. You've got the Coors Field game, which is better than yesterday's Coors Field game, especially for the White Sox side against Senzatella. But you also have the Dodgers against Patrick Corbin. So to me, that's almost certainly the chalk is the Dodgers and the White Sox. I also like the Rockies just as much. With Giolito has just been bad more often than good, and not particularly good against righties. So I do like the Rockies. But then we've also got the Brewers on this slate where they'll be chalk on the early FanDuel slate. Mm-hmm. They'll be kind of left out a little bit on DK, and I like them just as much. And then the Rangers are my other favorite, maybe overlooked stack.
Great. Okay. You feel good going position by position, kind of just knocking out a few favorite bats?
Yeah, there's not a lot of standout bats. The one guy at catcher that is a huge standout is Will Smith against Corbin. I think he is a worthy spend up. If Reese McGuire gets the start, being 2,100 in Coors, those are like your only two options for optimal lineups, up to Smith, down to McGuire.
Great. Let's go to first.
I love all these first basemen, but Rowdy Tellez at the savings, I think you're going to have to save somewhere if you want the pitching. So I as much as I love Freeman, I love Ohtani, I love all the guys in Coors. I like Tellez just as much, and he's cheaper. So that's my first baseman.
Okay, second.
It's not great. The spend ups are fine, but not compared to other positions. So I'm okay with like Whit Merrifield or Colton Wong. But again, we're waiting on this White Sox lineup. If Lurie Garcia is in there in like a cash game build, just play the cheap White Sox lefty so you can spend up elsewhere.
All right. Third.
Moncada will jump in projections. And while I do think he's the best play, I don't love him. I like Ryan McMahon a lot. If Justin Turner gets in the lineup, I like him better than Moncada. And I think Houston will be just completely overlooked as well. And Bregman is a viable spend up.
Okay. Any cheapies?
Sort of.
Or is this a spot where like there's the opportunity cost is too great?
Like the cheapie is probably Hanser Alberto, who might even get pinch hit for. So given that the expensive guys are just basically 4K, I think you spend up to 4K.
Great. Okay. Let's go to short.
Trey Turner is fantastic and maybe one of the best spends, maybe the best spend up on the slate. And all the other shortstops are expensive. Like if you look at these top, 7 or 8 guys, they're all 5K. And it's tough to go cheap when there's that many really good, expensive bats. Like this cheap stuff is just not close. So I think this is a spend up, which makes me think, like if I have to choose between spending up to Will Smith or spending up to Trey Turner, I'll take Turner and punt with McGuire.
Oh, I missed it.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's go ahead and take it to the outfield.
Spending up is great with Betts and Ohtani in particular. But we've got a little bit bigger mid-tier here than we have at other positions. The White Sox guys, this lineup will tell the story of who we play. Like Gavin Sheets would be pretty ideal if he's in there, and Eloy at 43. I think that's kind of the place to live. You can do Benintendi in cash games. And then Hunter Dozier is kind of a highlight for me at 31. It's really useful. If you just get one or two guys down around 3K, you can do a lot of other things. And that's where Trace Thompson will also come into play. 2,300 against Corbin. Pretty great. Two of my favorite spend up a little to be different are Hunter Renfroe and Adolis Garcia. With all the attention being on Coors and the Dodgers, I really like those two.
Okay. Cheese, anything you want to add before we head out here? You talked about stacks, pitchers, favorite bats, anything just like strategy-wise you want to throw in?
Yeah, the big picture is I think you got to spread out past Dodgers and White Sox on this slate because while those are the top two, like the next 3 or 4 teams are really close. And you can't just load up the top 4 Dodgers because of the salary. So I would be looking to get spread out with stacks and or get very different with your one-offs. Like if you're doing a Dodger stack, play Ohtani instead of Betts or play Willie Adames instead of Trey Turner. Like do something a little different. And I'm going to be pretty well spread out.
Okay, excellent. With that, I think we're done here. It's a Lineup HQ preview show. For Cheese, I'm Kevin Roth. We're going to be back on Crunch Time later tonight, as always, typical stuff. So thank you for joining us.